The Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors are two NBA teams that it seems like would greatly benefit from a trade, but what if I told you these two teams can make a trade with each other that would likely set their seasons back on track for success in the future? You need to tell me who would win this trade. I'm going to go over in today's video. Let's get into it. Welcome back everybody to Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors news, coverage, and analysis in videos just like this, as well as live stream watch parties for every Raptors game. If you like what you see from today's video, make sure you have smashed that like button, help this video hit 150 likes, and subscribe for more Raptors content, and help me on the road to 16,000 subscribers. And in a video we did recently on the channel, we spoke about the combination of Scottie Barnes and Pascal Siakam on the Raptors this season. The roster and the way it's constructed right now, is it possible for these two players to coexist and for the team to get max out of both of these players? Pascal Siakam is an all-NBA and all-star level talent. Scottie Barnes is an ascending former rookie of the year who is set to have a career year this season, blowing out the season that he had in his second year with the Raptors. So there is a bit of a demand here to get more out of Scottie Barnes, to get more touches for Scottie Barnes. So can you do that without the expense of Pascal Siakam's game? Well, I made the point in the video that these two players absolutely can coexist together, but perhaps with the Raptors roster in the way it's currently constructed, they're not going to be able to get the max out of these players, and therefore moving on from one of them is the smarter decision. Now, obviously, you're not going to move on from Scottie Barnes, so to set the team right, to put the right team in place to build around Scottie Barnes, you're going to need to bring, first of all, more depth into this team. Second of all, you're going to need to bring in a lot more shooting to this team and a lot more spacing to this team. And one way in which you can try to do that is by trading away one of the two players I mentioned, and that player would have to be, unfortunately, Pascal Siakam. I'm going to preface this by saying that I am a massive Pascal Siakam fan and a massive Pascal Siakam believer, but the Raptors, this roster right now, really isn't going anywhere, and it seems like it can go somewhere in the future with Scottie Barnes as the focal point. So let's really try to get the most out of his development this season by giving him the tools for him to succeed, mainly space on the floor to actually play the game that he wants to play. So the Raptors could decide that Pascal Siakam on an expiring contract is the right player to send away to try and make this happen, and one team who could be interested in acquiring his services are the struggling Golden State Warriors. They are still in this dynasty phase with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and it feels as though as long as they have Steph Curry on the team, they are going to be pushing to try and win an NBA championship. But it's becoming a little bit clear right now. Draymond Green is regressing. Klay Thompson is big time regressing. The younger players haven't quite taken the step up to class that perhaps they would have expected at this point. So they maybe had this understanding that with the talented Denver Nuggets, the Phoenix Suns, the Lakers in the Western Conference, this team is not equipped to win a championship in its current construction. And for the amount of money being invested into this team year after year as far as the luxury tax is concerned, they may be looking to make the big splash to put that secondary scoring off this team to alleviate a lot of the stress on Steph Curry and just give the team the boost it needs to go and be a true contender this season. That player who could alleviate the scoring for the Warriors is Pascal Siakam. Just think about Pascal Siakam, what he's been doing with the Raptors over the last 2 years. Like, consider like Scottie Barnes and Siakam, what they're achieving with this team. This Raptors roster in every way whatsoever does not cater to the strengths of Siakam and Barnes, but in particular Pascal Siakam, what we've seen over the last few years. The fact that he's been an all-star twice, all-NBA twice with this team is absolutely ridiculous, particularly in the recent years where he was an all-star last year and was all-NBA the year before, because there was no spacing on those teams. He had to continuously fight through this constricted paint, this restricted area to try and get his buckets at the rim. He's developed a mid-range shot to help alleviate that, but with the additional space, Siakam can be an even better player. And what better team to go on for floor spacing than the one that's led by Steph Curry, the one that's led by the Splash Brothers in Golden State. If Siakam is doing this with the Raptors, and albeit maybe he's not having the best season thus far, if Siakam is producing like significant numbers with the Raptors, just imagine what he could be displaying for the Golden State Warriors as that secondary scoring with the floor spacing provided by Steph Curry. I think that makes a ton of sense, and the fit makes a ton of sense for Pascal Siakam on the Golden State Warriors. And I very much feel as though this is a team that would be not necessarily desperate, but would want to make that big trade to really focus in on this season and try and continue this dynasty and really just get the most out of this core while they still can. So we know about the fit for Pascal Siakam in Golden State. That makes a certain degree of sense. But what is it going to cost the Golden State Warriors in a trade to acquire the player's services? Because he's on an expiring contract. The Raptors are going to try to get as much as they can out of this deal. What exactly is that going to cost? Well, you may have seen in the thumbnail, of course, Andrew Wiggins is included in this deal, but Andrew Wiggins is not included just because he's Canadian. For the first time, Andrew Wiggins is going to be included in a Raptors mock trade, not because he's Canadian.
He's Canadian.
This was a trade that was presented by Bill Simmons on his podcast, where he spoke about the fit for Siakam and Wiggins going the other way along with other players, but the main point he made about Wiggins is, well, he's Canadian. He can go to the Toronto Raptors. We've been hearing these sort of rumors for a year. I wish the rumors about Canadian players going to the Raptors would go also to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, he's Canadian. That would make sense for the Raptors to trade for a player like him, right? Well, maybe not. Andrew Wiggins, however, is a much more realistic player to come in this deal, and the only real reason I want to have him in this deal is for salary matching purposes. I think the real meat of this trade for the Raptors comes with the younger players that the Golden State Warriors could send over to the team, and these are some exciting players that could make a significant difference to the Raptors going forward and really help to the youth project we have going here, and also one of these players could help with the spacing problem we have here. I'm really upset Bill Simmons went over this trade on his podcast last week, because if you've been watching the watch parties that I've been doing on this channel, I made this exact same mock trade like 2 weeks ago before Bill Simmons went over it, so I wish I'd done the full video before this point, but here you go. The trade in question would involve Andrew Wiggins going to the Raptors. We'll talk about his struggles this season in just a second here, but pretty much salary is going to be important figure here. He's making $24 million this year. That goes up to 26, then 28, then it's a player option worth $31 million. He got this contract off the back of the success in winning the championship with the Golden State Warriors and being such an immense figure in that playoff run, especially in the NBA Finals. On top of that, the Raptors would add on youth to their team. One of those players would be Jonathan Kuminga. I get it, not a floor spacing player, but a promising player that I'm sure this team would relish the opportunity to work with. Where you get the floor spacing is the next player that comes over in the deal. That would be, hopefully for me, Moses Moody. That could also turn into Brandon Podziemski, but that's also a good floor spacing shooting guard. One of those players comes in to sweeten the deal. You'd have to add in a little bit more salary to make it work, which shouldn't be a problem for the Golden State Warriors. And I feel like the Raptors could also snag a pick in the process as well. The Golden State Warriors have their first round picks at their disposal to trade here. I feel like you want the earlier ones because you want to use that pick earlier, but I feel like the later ones, once Curry starts to fade away, perhaps isn't on the team more, those later Golden State Warriors picks are going to have significant value as I think this team starts to fall off. So it would depend there, but ultimately, I'm looking at Andrew Wiggins, I'm looking at Kuminga, then one of Moses Moody or Brandon Podziemski, and a first-round pick. Now, the pick might be going a little bit too far, but let's focus on the players involved in this deal. So, Jonathan Kuminga has been widely perceived around the NBA to have talent, a ton of talent, but he just doesn't fit what the Golden State Warriors are doing. So, it's difficult for Kuminga to show truly what he is, but there is belief that in a bigger role, this is a player that could really start to break out, and the Raptors are definitely a team where this guy can start to break out. Maybe coming off the Raptors bench, getting much more of a role, help with the Raptors' depth, and we see what we have with the player. Like, the potential coming out of that NBA draft that got this player selected 7th overall, like, there was a lot of buzz going around his athletic ability. The Raptors are a team that could definitely harness that sort of talent and harness that sort of ability. Andrew Wiggins comes into the team as a salary filler mostly, but this is where the trade maybe starts to worry me a little bit. Where I am excited about the floor spacing is potential of Moses Moody coming into the team. He's finally starting to get a bigger role in Golden State as a shooting guard, a 6'6" shooting guard. This is a player I thought fell too far in his draft when he fell to 14th in the 2014 NBA entry draft. Same draft as Jonathan Kuminga. I thought he dropped a little bit too far, and this is another player I think that in a bigger role would start to break out a little bit more. And the Raptors, who need floor spacing so bad, this is a great pickup because he started to find his feet. You could also go, instead of Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski in his rookie season, drafted in the low 20s in the most recent NBA draft. He was a great shooter in college. He's showing some great strides in shooting in the NBA. This would be another nice addition to the team. Andrew Wiggins is where I start to have those sort of worries because Andrew Wiggins is a good player. We've seen what he's been able to do as this more role player option for the Golden State Warriors. He's been a great shooter for the Warriors when he's taken the smart shots, which he has been doing since he was acquired by the Warriors. However, what you have to consider with Andrew Wiggins he's had a real tough start to the season. He missed a lot of time last season, so you'd have to have a conversation whether or not you believe Andrew Wiggins, like, he's fallen off for good, or he's still trying to find his feet after that lengthy absence that we saw during the previous season. So if you have Andrew Wiggins anywhere close to what he was doing in that championship run for the Warriors, you have more floor spacing, you have great defense, and somebody who's perhaps a little bit more prepared to play a certain role for the Raptors than Pascal Siakam. In some cases, they've been using Siakam in more of a specific role. That's going away the further we go into the season, but you can maybe get that back by bringing in Andrew Wiggins to the team. So I think that the base of this trade has to be Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga, and you have to go with either Moses Moody or Brandon Podziemski. Could you tempt the Warriors into giving a first-round pick alongside of that? That remains to be seen, but I'm more concerned about the player pool involved in this. Once again, I'm going to reiterate my stance. I love Pascal Siakam, and I hate to see him go, but this Raptors roster is not really going anywhere. It can go somewhere with Scottie Barnes taking the reins down the line. So even though Barnes isn't there yet, let's force him into this number one role for this team here. Let's put him in this role. Let's see what we can do. But if we're going to put him in this number one role, put a team around him that makes sense. Put a team around him that maximizes his strengths. Wiggins could be that good piece beside him there. You may eat that contract. That's what you're concerned about. But the thought and prospect of getting Kuminga to build for the future, the thought and prospect of getting Moses Moody or Brandon Podziemski to build for the future, and perhaps a first-round pick alongside that, all while avoiding the risk of losing Pascal Siakam for completely nothing in the offseason, this makes a whole ton of sense to me. And I believe if this is on the table, if Wiggins and Kuminga are on the table with one of the other young players, this is absolutely something that the Raptors should pull the trigger on. But you let me know your thoughts and opinions. Would you make this trade? Do you think the Raptors make this trade? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That's all for me for today. Smash that like button if you enjoyed. Make sure you're subscribed to Amateur Sports for more Raptors content like this. And I'll see you again next time for another video.